You've probably heard a lot about digital trust and wondering what this is all about. I get a lot of calls. Is this for real or just a bunch of hype? I've done a lot of presentations on this around the world, so I put this short course together to provide some basic information on what digital trust is and why I don't think it's hype, but an evolution in how you should be thinking about your interactions and transactions with your customers and your consumers. This is the next generation of digital transformation and a true outcome of security and privacy. Think about digital trust as today's digital version of a handshake. Do your customers have the confidence that their relationship with you is secured and reliable? You might think so, but do they? Now, what makes a customer trust you in today's digital world? Is it because they want to or because they have to? Now, there are so many opportunities to gain and lose trust today, so stick around and we'll talk about what it is and why I believe it's not just hype. I've had conversations like this, and many of you probably have too. Now, my CEO slapped his hand on the table, and here's how that conversation went. We're secured, we protect our customers' privacy, and we pass our audits. Why are our customers leaving us? Our customers are leaving us because they don't trust us. You can be secured, you can protect privacy, and you can be compliant. But if your customers don't trust you, they'll pack their bags and they'll move on. It only takes one negative event to erase all of those. Objectives for this course are to, number one, understand the aspects of today's transforming environment and why digital trust is key to success. We'll recognize the fundamentals of digital trust and the latest industry frameworks to support this. And finally, gain top tips and tricks to preparing for and adopting a digital trust framework in your organization. Let's jump into Module 1, Transforming Environments. There are a lot of things that are changing in our environment and in many organizations today, and you see these here on the left. Okay, let's hit digital trust fundamentals. Some of the basics here. Now, you might be familiar with this, is that ISACA recently has been publishing a lot of information on digital trust. As a consumer of a digital product or a digital service, you might remember the old game where we would blindfold ourselves and we would trust somebody to catch us. Well, as a digital product or a service consumer, this is not how you determine trust. On the other hand, as an organization that provides digital products and services, you should not put your head in the sand, and this should not be your digital trust strategy. So I've done a lot of research on what digital trust is, and I found a lot of information out there about, of course, the energy industry, looking at smart grids and so on. With all of these advances in digital technologies, these are the things we're thinking about when it comes to digital trust. So what do they all have in common? Well, we have some elements of digital trust that I think are important for us to consider. But at a very high level, integrity is guarding against improper information modification. This is driven by business needs to enable competitive drive and meet all of our stakeholder expectations. I want you to think of digital trust as an outcome of these elements that we just talked about. What are some of these interactions or these relationships? You'll see on the left, we have everything from business to consumer all the way down to peer to peer. What do these things really mean? From a business to consumer perspective, now, there are other considerations we might have. First, we have digital level frequency. Sometimes that has an effect as well. Is this a one-time purchase on a website, or is this a monthly debit from my account for my auto payment? You know, frameworks and bodies of knowledge is one of my favorite topics. I want to start off with how governance of enterprise IT has evolved. Today, we're seeing that evolve into a digital trust governance requirement. Now, let's talk a little bit about frameworks and how these come together. Another slide you may have seen, but I've altered this a little bit to consider digital trust. What does this have to do with digital trust? Well, there's a new framework in town, and over on the right-hand side, we'll see how digital trust touches every one of these altitudes. Now, we do have what's called the World Economic Forum Digital Trust Framework. Quite honestly, I think it's very, very high level. It doesn't give me the actionable items that I need to build a digital trust ecosystem. That's where the ISACA DTEF, or the Digital Trust Ecosystem Framework, plays a role. Now, notice those red dots. What they're telling me is this framework touches every one of those areas. Let's take a look at a couple things around the framework itself. It starts off at a very high level. It has 4 nodes and what we call 6 domains out the entire model. So here you see kind of the building of this 3-dimensional model, and these are what we call nodes. The nodes do not exist in isolation. With traditional approaches, enterprises often overlook the dependencies between these nodes. And so that's an oversight that I think leads to linear thinking. These domains include things like culture, direct and monitor, architecture, enabling and support, human factors, and emergence. I'm not going to cover each one of these in this course. You can keep an eye out on the ISACA site. I'll give you more information coming up here real soon. Well, since I told you I'm a real fan of trust factors, let's take a look and see what those trust factors actually include. In the DTF, each trust factor has a trust factor designator. So let me walk you through how you might find some information in the DTEF. Now you recall, these areas up here on the top are those domains. Remember, those are the connectors between my nodes. So if we had an example in our organization, say that your incident response procedures are key to maintaining digital trust with your customers. You experienced a recent incident that has affected the trust of your customers. Where do you find this information in the DTEF? Well, I'm going to start up here at the domain section, and I'm probably going to start. You can see how big this framework is. We just looked. Where can you find this information? You can get it out on ISACA's site, and you can register your interest at isaca.org/digital-trust. One other thing I wanted to tell you about ISACA is really neat. They do a state of digital trust. Do yourself a favor, go to the ISACA site and download this Digital Trust Global Research Report. Great information for looking at digital trust in your organization and adopting the digital trust ecosystem framework. We'll finish this off with my top tips and closing. You know I love this framework. I love digital trust, but one of the things you need to do is understand your business and your digital environment. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your kind attention. Mark Thomas here. You can keep track of me on social media, and you can also send me an email to let me know what you think about the course. Make sure you go to Module 5 to take a look at the course Q&A and see if you can answer some of my tough questions. Thanks again. We'll see you in the next course.